Hi, I'm Thomas Broadhead. I'm the editor of the Critical Performance edition of the Ives Fourth Symphony, and this is the intro video to the series of videos in which I discuss the new edition and the real-world feedback that informs it. When I finished my desk work on the edition back in 2011, I knew that my work on the symphony was not yet over. I knew there were things that were likely hiding in the score that needed attention. Yes, oversights in correcting the proofs, but more importantly, large-scale issues of clarity of the material itself. Each page of this piece is a petri dish of musical microbial growth, and the new edition brings to light many details that were missing or obscure in the old edition from 1965. Also, this is a symphony of possibilities. There's no one way to interpret it. Ives builds optional ways of executing passages throughout the score, so the piece may be executed in a seemingly unending number of ways. The score was not yet in print, though, back in 2011. It was to be a rental item for many years, not meeting full publication until 2020, as it worked out. That created a unique opportunity to refine the score and the 1,700 pages of parts following feedback from its initial use. As it worked out, the first use of the materials was to be at the Lucerne Festival in August 2012, where the edition received its premiere, followed by a performance by the Berlin Philharmonic 2 weeks later, and then a performance by the Concertgebouw Orchestra the week following that. This meant there would be 3 performances by 3 major orchestras in the span of 1 month's time. So I went to Europe for a month and spent a week each with the 3 ensembles, and the number of things that came out of the woodwork was extraordinary. I'm not talking about simple things like missing staccato dots, but as I expected, large-scale issues that required attention, such as how to best communicate how Ives intended a polytemporal passage to be executed. I realized that those 3 weeks of real-world feedback were not enough, so I continued the process, spending a week each with 12 different orchestras who were preparing a public performance of the edition, all over a 5-year span. During that process, I collected feedback from conductors, musicians, orchestra librarians, and even stagehands, and the foreword grew from 17 pages to 43 pages, and the score and parts were revised to clarify the materials as well. Sadly, this is nothing that's explained in the edition, and so this video series attempts to correct for that. First, by acknowledging the help the edition received from the orchestras, who were, in order, the Lucerne Festival Orchestra, the Berlin Philharmonic, the Concertgebouw Orchestra, the University of Kentucky Symphony Orchestra, the Detroit Symphony, the New York Philharmonic, the Tonhalle Orchestra, the Seattle Symphony, the BBC Symphony, the Montreal Symphony, the Utah Symphony, and finally, the San Francisco Symphony. This video series is an oral history of this project, in part, but it also graphically walks through some of the thornier aspects of the score, passages that I attempt to describe and clarify in the edition, but which are benefited by illustration. So the videos in this series are organized into playlists, which include essential info for conductors and interpreters, topics like the collapse section in the second movement, the wayward extra violin 2-part, and the temporal rondo, how the BU works in the fourth movement. The next playlist includes unique components of the symphony, such as the ether organ, the scordatura quarter-tone piano, and the prominence indicators. There's also some anecdote videos, such as one on a flash mob Ives performance. Then we get to videos about the real-world feedback that I got, where I go orchestra by orchestra through the 12 orchestras, covering things that came up that needed attention for players and for conductors. This covers the more interesting and important things that came out of the woodwork during the journey. Following that are videos covering things newly exposed in the symphony that may inform a conductor's or a player's interpretation of the work, such as aural parallax, thrush calls in the finale and their tie-in with the fugue, and, of course, the Celestial Railroad program in the second movement. Then, to close, 2 longer videos, one on the story of Charles Ives, based on the pre-concert talks I often gave before audiences during the journey, and then the story of the Fourth Symphony, from its genesis through the 1965 premiere to the premiere of the new edition in 2012. So this series is not just for musicologists who might be interested in the background of the edition. It's for conductors, musicians, interpreters, and anyone else who's interested in how the Ives Fourth works and how it's presented and clarified in the new edition. So get a copy of the score, read through the front matter, and then watch this video series. Let's jump right into it.